Alright, Cyno's finally here everyone. Now congratulations to those of you who have been able to pull for him and good luck to those who are still trying to get him. Have you guys finished building Cyno? Because my god, finding his scarab level up material is a pain. The desert this time around is super huge and I'm literally running around the map trying to scrape like every last one of them. Yet I still barely only got him to like level 60 right now. But then either way, if you have finished building Cyno, then it's time for his team build, in which as usual guys, we have his top 5 teams for you to run. These teams I have all tested and are a bit ready, so you can use them however you like. Now I'd like to thank Ore for sponsoring this video. Ore Remote Desktop is an app that lets you control your computer with your phone. This lets you access your PC while you are on bed, at work or on the go. This app works on Windows, iOS and Android phones, and best of all, there is a free version for all users. Here's me playing Genshin Impact on my phone with Ore. Now I know what you're thinking, saying like, Tom, there's already Genshin Impact on mobile. But then guys, the game is taking a lot of geeks on the phone, and I know that you guys are having to delete a lot of apps in order to keep Genshin Impact on your phone. By remoting to my PC, I don't even need to download Genshin Impact on my phone. I still can play on my account. You can also customize the control and UI to your liking to make the experience that best fits you. Here are the benefits on different Ore subscription. There's a free version that lets you access your desktop with your phone. Then there are optional packages that provides more services. The game subscription even supports up to 144 frames per second if your phone can handle it. And no need to keep your computer on all the time, as with Ore's Smart Power Plug device, one tap is all you need to wake up and shut down your computer with your phone. And currently this device is 20% off on Amazon right now. The first 200 of my subscribers to enter this code on screen will get a 7-day free trial of the paid version of Ore. This lets you try out all of the benefits without worry, so feel free to give it a try now. Now, before we get into the top 5 teams, there's some important note on Cyno that you want to remember when using him. Is that first of all, how he plays is fairly simple because he's gonna be a hyper carry on your team. Plus the usage of his skills is simple as well. You will not need to touch on his normal attack and only onto his burst and E skill. For all of his damage is gonna be done during his burst. So since his energy requirement is 80, therefore he would need at least around 150 energy recharge and above for a comfortable use. What you want to keep in mind during his gameplay though is that his passive talent 1. For basically what it does is that it gives his E skill an extra damage boost whenever you see this kind of eye effect is on the screen. Now this effect will appear once every around 4-ish seconds and its window is around 3 seconds. So what you want to do is basically want to save Cyno's E skill until you see this eye effect pops on the screen, because his E skill cooldown during his burst is only 3 seconds, so it's fairly short. Yet you don't want to constantly spam it the moment you see his cooldown ends, because you want to wait for this effect to appear so that you can get the maximum buff from his passive talent. And then other than that, his passive talent 2 is there to buff his damage as well. So overall, again, his kit all comes down to him dealing damage. Now since his burst up time is around 18 seconds, which is very long, whenever you're building a team for Cyno, you wouldn't really want to use support that have very short buff duration. For example, like Mona, where she only have her burst buff for like 6 seconds, or Sarah, who usually works really well with quick swap team, won't be able to work with Cyno because her buff is also only around 6 seconds. Or even Fischl, who's really good as an off-field damage many of the time, but her Oz only stays on field for 10 seconds, so she won't be able to work too well with Cyno. However, if you want to use her on your team, she's still very good. But of course, we're going to be looking in depth into his team build in a bit. Talking about Cyno's team build, I won't be mentioning about Raiden National because Raiden National is also one of his top team, as if you want, you can take out Raiden and then just simply put in Cyno and the team works absolutely well on him. So we'll be discussing other teams during the team section. In terms of Cyno specific specific build, I won't be going too in-depth into his build, but just the most important point, in that his artifact sets usually have these 4 best sets, which are Thundering Fury, the Gilded Dream, Thunder Soother, and Gladiator. In that generally these 4 sets works basically on the same level, however Thundering Fury has a little bit of the upper hand due to its effects of reducing E skill cooldown, and that works really well with Cynos as well, for his E skill only have 3 seconds cooldown, plus you always want his E skill to be available during his passive 1, therefore Thundering Fury is really good on him also. However, you should always prioritize the artifact sets that would gives you the better stats, especially crit rate as well as his EM, because we're building a 4-piece set here, and generally 4-piece are harder to get good stats than building 2-piece sets. As far as specific stats go, usually Sans you will run with EM, however attack percentage is fine. Cup will be Electro Goblet, and then Circlet will be crit. First weapon, of course, disregarding his BIS option, we have the Staff of Homa and the Jade Spear, who are both really good on him. Other than that, the 4-star BIS option would be the Deathmatch, as it's giving him like 36% of crit rate with quite a lot of attack buff. The Moon Piercer is very good also because it is a free to play weapon, plus it gives EM stats plus a little bit of attack whenever he picks up the leaf. And then there's the Missive Wind Spears as well, which we're going to be getting from the event, which can be a decent option for him as well. Now there's also a White Tassel, which is a 3-star options. Now I don't know why you would really want to choose the White Tassel, even though it does give you normal attack stats and pretty decent crit rate, but then overall we've already got other good 4-star option that you can use. And that should be everything you want to take note of Cyno. Now moving on to his best team. Something to note guys is that in the showcase my Cyno is not at full power yet, since he is only at level 60. Team 1, we have a quickened team, which is Cyno, Collei, Dendro MC, and Kuki Shinobu. However, we can actually switch out Collei and Kuki Shinobu for Jin and Raiden Shogun. Now the reason being is that currently if we're running, let's say Collei on the team for Dendro Resonance, it would be a bit hard for this team to perform truly well, because Collei would be lacking in off-field damage, plus her burst isn't on for too long. Therefore, switching in Jin for healing as well as Swirling Electro would still be very good for the team, and then adding in Raiden for Electro Resonance. Plus I really like using Raiden along with Cyno because her support works really well for him. She has her E skill which buff elemental burst damage for your team, and since Cyno burst normal attack have a burst scalings, that absolutely works well with Raiden Shogun. Not to mention she is very good with energy regen for the team as well, and Cyno really needs energy regen, so overall having her here on the team is basically a win-win. And then of course we have Dendro MC for us to deal off-field damage plus a lot of Dendro application, because her burst goes up to 15 seconds if you have her up to C2, which you should already have at this point in time. So Dendro MC is a must in basically a Dendro reaction team. In terms of team rotation, you want to keep in mind the rotation a bit here, but you first start off with Cyno's E for a bit of damage to Raiden E skill setup, and then you switch to Jin EQ, to Dendro MC EQ, and then to Cyno's burst. After Cyno's burst end, you can switch to Raiden to do her Q. Doing this will make sure that Jin will be able to swirl Electro before we move on to our Dendro MC to set up her burst for a maximum duration uptime before we go into Cyno's burst. And then with that, you can just hop in and then annihilate everything with Cyno. Next team, we have a Hyper Bloom team where we have Cyno, Dendro MC, Raiden Shogun, and Kokomi. Very straightforward team to run as well, where we focus on Hyper Bloom damage with a little bit of quicken here and there. Now obviously you don't really have to run Raiden Shogun, it's just kind of like a preference for me because there are other Electro sub DPS support like Fischl or even Yai Miko, but I just feel that Raiden Shogun will work best on Cyno's team in terms of Electro support, therefore I have her as a support for Cyno most of the time. Kokomi is here for obviously healing as well as hydro application, and then Dendro MC for the usual support. In terms of rotation, we start off with Cyno's E skill for a little bit of damage, to Raiden Shogun's E, to Dendro MC's EQ, to Kokomi's E, and then to Cyno's burst. Now Kokomi, I would suggest you to run Thrilling Tales of Dragons as well as Tenacity so that she can provide as much support as she can for the team. Next we have an Overload team with Cyno, Bennett, Kazuha, and Shang Ling. Overload team with Cyno is pretty decent, especially if you're running in a situation with solo boss, where you don't really have to worry about pushing back your enemies or staggering them too much. Overload team still works absolutely well with Cyno because there will be situations where Quicken and Hyper Bloom team will not be able to deal with. For example, if you're going up against an Electro shield or a Hydro shield, Quicken and Hyper Bloom will have trouble dealing with that. So when running in the Abyss, it will be situational in terms of your team build. Therefore, we're having a lot of different teams we're running right now. Overload here will help you to deal with that situation pretty well. So of course, we have Bennett and Xiangling here for a dual pyro, therefore damage increase for the team. Bennett with a very good buff as usual, and then Xiangling for pyro application as well as off-field damage. Kazuha of course is here as his usual role for swirling electro as well as giving a ton of elemental damage bonus for the team. In terms of rotation, you first start off with Cyno's E to Kazuha's E skill, to Benny EQ, and then to Xiangling's EQ. Doing this will make sure that Kazuha is able to infuse his burst with electro, and then from there you can comfortably use Cyno's burst. Now something to note here is that since we're not having another electro character on the team, Cyno will have to keep in mind his energy recharge. Otherwise, you won't be able to get his burst back after the first rotation right away if he doesn't have enough energy recharge. Next, we have an electro charge team with Cyno, Yelan, Kokomi, and our Raiden Shogun. Electro charge team is still pretty good, giving you comfortability especially when you're up against Pyro Shield. So we're running Yelan here instead of Xingqiu because with Hydro Resonance we get HP increase which benefits Yelan as well as Kokomi. Now you can also swap Yelan with Candice, as Candice works absolutely well together with Cyno. So if you don't have Yelan, Candice will be a perfect spot on the team. And then our duo Cyno Raiden for Electro Resonance as usual, and Raiden here to support Cyno. Now if you've already have comfortability with Cyno energy recharge here in this team, you can actually switch out Raiden with Kazuha so that you're able to give your team a lot more elemental damage buff as well as a little bit of crowd control here and there for the team, which works really well as well. In terms of team rotation, we start off with Cyno's E for a little bit of damage, to Raiden's E, to Yelan's EQ, and then to Kokomi's E to Cyno's burst. That should make sure that everyone on the team has the correct buff. And then for the fifth team, we actually have a pretty interesting team here with Cyno, Bennett, Yunjin, and Albedo. This team basically focus on providing Cyno as much damage boost as possible because Benny and Yunjin duo is there to buff like a lot of attack for Cyno. You don't really have to worry much about diminishing return in terms of attack because these two works pretty well with each other. We have Albedo here, who is an interesting option because there will be Geo Resonance for the team. Plus having Albedo here helps a lot with off-field damage for Cyno. Not to mention Albedo has his passive talent 1 which increase 125 EM for the team, and that benefits Cyno like a ton because he wants a lot of EM buff for himself. So overall, it's a very interesting team option if you want to run that, and works well if some of your other main support have been used in other team. In terms of team rotation, you first start off with Cyno's E for a little bit of damage, and then to Yunjin's EQ, to Bennett's EQ, and then to Albedo's EQ. Now once again, since there is no other electro support on the team for Cyno for energy regen, you want to make sure that he has enough energy recharge so that he can have his burst up after the first rotation. So overall, Cyno is a very fun character to play because we haven't got a character that really wants on-field time as much as Cyno in quite some time. Last time it was Xiao. So getting to see a character to be on field for a very long time, especially if Cyno is your favorite character, is gonna be pretty good. His animation is very good as well, being one of the best here in the game. So I hope that the video have been able to help you have a better understanding in terms of team building for Cyno. Let me know down in the comment which team you're going to be building with Cyno. And of course, in collaboration with Paimon's Bargain, we are doing a 6,480 Primogems pack giveaway right now on my Discord server. So if you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe and join my Discord server to enter the giveaway. There aren't a lot of participants yet, so I'm sure your chance of winning is pretty high. And with that guys, I wish you a super day and I will catch you on my next video.